Who do you want next? I know you mentioned TFM.
Whichever one of the champions, whichever one of the guys that want to fight. You know, Haney said that if I get a belt, he'll fight me. So let's do it. I think that I'm ready for any of the top names. I want the biggest fights in boxing. That's it. It's time to secure my legacy, secure my family legacy, and make the biggest fights in boxing. And that's what we're here for.
Richardson Hitchins, brand new champion, and the new, has now called out Devin Haney. He says, quote, whichever one of the champions want to fight, Haney said, if I get a belt, he'll fight me. So let's do it. Boom. Doesn't get any more direct than that. Hitchens continued, I'm ready for any of the top names. I want the biggest fights in boxing. It's time to secure my legacy, secure my family, and make the biggest fights, end quote. Listen, Devin Haney versus Richardson Hitchins is a good fight. I am curious how it would play out based on the styles, the two styles. You know, would they bring the best out of each other, or would it be such a chess match where nobody wants to take the lead? I do have questions there stylistically, but hey, listen, sometimes I'm wrong, because I thought Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk could potentially have that same dynamic where you got two guys with a boxing brain. Sometimes you never know how that'll work, especially if it's like two southpaws. Sometimes if you have two technical southpaws, it's like they're not used to fighting a left-hander. They've primarily been fighting orthodox righties, and they don't want to take the lead. So it's just like for example, if Edislandi Lara and Demetrius Andrade were to fight, back in the day, because now Lada's kind of knockish out, but back in the day, like at 54, if they would have fought and both were like undefeated, or there was only like one loss between the two of them, I don't know how that fight would have played out in terms of entertainment value. So I do have some concerns there, but like I said, sometimes I could be wrong, where I had questions about how Fury Usyk, the first fight, would be in terms of two styles and action, and it was actually a very fun fight and an entertaining fight, and I enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to the rematch. So there's that. But nonetheless, boxing is a competition. Hitchens did his thing. I'm not going to spend too much time on the hate, because I think we got to spread positivity and talk about what people are doing right. So some people are hating on Hitchens, like, oh, the performance was boring. Man, they say the same thing. And then some of their favorite fighters fight like Dawn of the Dead, a bunch of zombies, and they talk and got CTE and stuff like that. So we're not worried about that. Richardson Hitchens did his thing. You know, he fought like he had a brain. And to be honest, you're the champion. You're the promoter favorite. You can tell how DAZN and Rematch Room were announcing the fight and calling the fight. They wanted Liam Paro to win, and I explained it already. I truly believe they just signed George Kambosos, Australian former champion, Liam Paro, Australian champion. They were trying to put together an Aussie card with a former and current champion, and Richardson Hitchens spoiled the party in Puerto Rico. They thought, like, you know, Liam Paro was on such a tear, beating Montana Love and knocking him out, and then beating Subriel Matias. They didn't realize in the matchmaking, like, styles make fights. This guy don't fight like Montana Love, Hitchens, and he don't fight like Subriel Matias, and he's fully capable. He exercised composure, given he hadn't been at this level, and he had a great jab, very snappy jab, like actually one of the top jabs in the building. So you guys can focus on negativity, talking about the fight was boring. I'm going to focus and put blame where it belongs. Liam Paro, you want to retain your title, and you were getting scraped, and you clearly weren't able to penetrate, the Hitchens reach style. That's on you. You got to push the fight. Like, what part of the game is it where the losing team has no criticism, and the person who's winning, people are over analyzing and nitpicking the style of play and the strategy employed, but they're clearly winning? Only in boxing do you see this, because boxing is a race sport. It's mano y mano. And I'm not saying with me, I'm saying with a lot of spectators. They view it, whether they admit to it or not, they view it with a different set of lenses. These other sports, they're team sport. Rugby, football, soccer, basketball, baseball. These are team sports. So you're rooting for a team, and it's completely different than man on man, woman on woman, mano y mano, right? And you start seeing that bias come out and things like that, where people somehow are blaming the winner for winning more than they're blaming the loser for stinking up the joint. Liam Paro, literally after the first 4 rounds, did very little as the champion. He's the guy that had the better fights leading up to this, with Matias win and Montana Love. So he was the champion. He needed to do something and get into a different gear. The person who's winning and controlling the fight don't got to do ish. So back to Hitchens, Devin Haney. I would watch it. I don't know what Devin's plans are or who he expects to fight. I think there's certain issues. And now, it's funny how boxing works, because boxing, like I always tell you, is a what have you done for me lately type of sport. And Devin was undisputed at 35, moved to 40, great performance of Regis Prograis. That all went to when he fought Ryan Garcia. The fight itself financially flopped. Oscar De La Hoya said that himself, that he's like, Devin, you're pathetic. You just don't sell. Ryan Garcia, he beat you, right? This is what De La Hoya had to say. And now Devin relinquished his belt instead of fighting his known mandatory Sandor Martin. Tables turn. This reminds me of Errol Spence, Keith Thurman. Errol was calling out and chomping at the bit to fight Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman was the 2-belt holder at welterweight. Errol hadn't done anything, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward to the future, Keith Thurman lost to Pacquiao, lost his belts, and Errol became the man beating Kell Brook. Tables turn. And then Errol was the top dog getting the fights. And then Keith Thurman later was like, oh, give me a fight. Please, baby, please. But when Errol was looking up from that disadvantaged position, Keith didn't want to give him the fight. Now tables turn for Richardson Hitchins. Hitchens was quote unquote a nobody. And I'm not saying it disrespectfully. I'm just saying he wasn't a champion. He wasn't considered at the level. He had more confidence in him than what he has shown in the ring, right? Because he hadn't become a champion. Now Devin has no belt, and Richardson Hitchens is coming off a great performance, and he's now a champion. So I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work, because Hitchens is probably going to want to get paid to fight any big name, including Devin Haney, because he's the champion. And Devin Haney's going to want to get paid because he's been getting bigger fights and his loss got overturned. So I don't know how hard or easy that fight would be to make for those reasons, but that's not my concern. I am not the promoter. I like the call out from Hitchens.